Good day. This might look like a worksheet that you have to do, but in fact they're notes. So I would suggest you write down notes so you're not tempted to hand it in and lose marks. We have a bunch of formulas here to help us. P equals, I like to say IV, they've said VI. P also equals I squared times R, and P equals V squared divided by R. So first question says, what power is delivered by a 1.2 volt cell, that's our voltage, to a resistor if the current is 50 milliamps? So we have our current, we have our voltage, and we're after power. So we look for where we have current and voltage, and we say, hey, this ought to do the trick. And so we go P equals I times V. 0.05 amps. Remember, we had to divide this by 1,000, and we multiply by 1.2 volts, and we get 0.06 watts. So when you're doing the question, I'd write a P over power, I'd write a V over this, and I'd write an I here, and it helps us choose from those formulas. Here it says, what's the maximum voltage? So I put a V there. Can be applied to a 300 ohm resistor, so I put an R here. And it's rated at 0.25 watts, so I put an I here. So I'm looking for a V, R, and P. So P, R, and V. So it looks like I'm after this formula here. Now V squared equals P times R, and you'll find that on your formula sheet. Now our power is 0.25 watts, so that comes down like that. Our 300 ohms comes in like this. And so what it doesn't say here is that that is actually our V squared. And now to get V, we've got to take the square root. So I should just add in square root. Or in Boston, we'd say square root. So V squared is equaling 300 times 0.25, which is 75. Then we're going to take the square root, and that's the 8.66 volts. The fun continues. Now, here it says we want current, which is I. We know watts is power, so we have I and P, and we have V. And we're after I. So rearranging our formula, I equals P divided by V. There's our power divided by our voltage. So 40 watts divided by 12 volts is 3.33 amps. So that one was very easy. Here we have the industrial plant, so now they put in big numbers, kilowatts of power, we know that's a P there. Total resistance 1.2 ohms, so we put an R there. Then we care about energy, and we care about power. And it's told about, well, we don't care about power, but we do know it's 120 volts. So it's a terribly worded question. So first of all, I equals P divided by V. We can determine the current. So 85 kilowatts, kilo means 1,000, that's why it's 85,000 watts. We divide by 120 volts and we get 708 amps. So now we have a current. Power is current squared times R. Somewhere we should be given a resistance, and we are, 1.2 ohms. So 708 amps squared is going to be a big honking number. We're going to multiply by 1.2 and we get this power. And that energy loss means we're losing over 602,000 joules per second. This question really, really was badly worded. So if you found that one confusing, totally understandable, and be glad it wasn't assigned.